my name is Kat and today I'm going to be discussing the Catching Fire movie. First, an announcement. This Friday at 7 PM Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a group live show with these awesome people, and we will be discussing the Catching Fire movie. The live show will be right here on my channel, and if you're subscribed to me, it'll just show up in your feed like a regular video. I will also be tweeting out the link before we begin, so you can follow me on Twitter if you want to stay up to date on that. And as always, it will be recorded and available for viewing later if you happen to miss it. Friday the 29th at 7 PM Eastern Standard Time. Be there. Be here. It'll be here. Be here. Alright, let's begin this Catching Fire discussion, cause I think it's gonna be a long one. I'm gonna start with a non-spoilery part. This was probably the best book-to-movie adaptation I have ever seen, and this movie might have even been better than the book. At the very least, it was just as good as the book, and I loved the book. The book was amazing. 5 stars from me to the book. But this movie was just so very good. It was a very faithful adaptation, and the changes that they did make made sense, and I was totally on board with them. I just really love this book series, and I think it's like the perfect series to be made into movies because it translates so very well. As a movie, we get opened up to this world a little bit more. We get to see other perspectives and scenes that don't involve Katniss, and that just makes the story so much better. So yeah, I highly recommend the books and the movies as well. I, for one, really enjoyed the Hunger Games movie. I know some people were iffy about it, but I loved it, and yes, the shaky camera wasn't that great, but the script and the settings and the cast and the performances, they were all amazing to me. So I loved the Hunger Games movie, but the Catching Fire movie just blows it away. It was just spectacular, and if you haven't seen it yet, go do that now. Because I'm about to get into a spoilery discussion, and trust me, you want to watch the movie. You don't want to hear my recap without seeing the movie, because I won't do it justice. So go do that. Go watch the movie, because here come the spoilers. Spoilers coming at your face. Okay, let's start at the beginning. First, I would like to note that I just reread Catching Fire, so all of that is fresh in my mind, and I will be discussing the book as well, like comparisons and whatnot. So we start the movie with reintroductions. Katniss in the forest with Gale, which wasn't in the book, but in the book that's kind of recapped in her thoughts, so in the movie this was the perfect way to reintroduce them. We get her confrontation with President Snow at her house, and her meeting up with Peeta and Haymitch, and they're getting ready for the victory tour. And those scenes were just like lifted perfectly from the book. Like down to the dialogue exactly how it was in the book. So we're not even 10 minutes into the movie and I'm already freaking out over how amazing this is going to be. The victory tour was perfection. Kind of a montage thing going on, which I loved, and we got to see like the beginnings of the rebellion. Katniss is kind of trying to control it and keep it down, but it's something that she never had control over in the first place, so it's not really working. The proposal was like the least romantic proposal ever, both times. The first time where they decide to do it and Peeta's just like, sure, fine, and walks off. And then the second time on camera where Caesar is like gawking and freaking out like right next to them, and that's just every girl's dream. Now, the introduction of Plutarch was really interesting. You don't know until the very end if he's a good guy or a bad guy in the movie, whereas in the book you get some more clues that he might be a good guy. And I think how they handled that worked really well for the movie. It was a nice twist at the end. still, it was so vague, and he didn't even have, like, the Mockingjay pocket watch, like, no hints at all. President Snow, on the other hand, is a clear villain, with his bloody champagne and whatnot. That was a great detail. There were so many great details. Except for the fireworks. Did the fireworks bug anyone else? Was it just me? It was like a projection of fireworks, like the Capitol can't afford real fireworks. What was going on there? So one thing that I kind of had issue with was the Gale and Katniss relationship. Acting-wise, it was totally fine. Like, I really like the casting choices with both of them, and they have good chemistry together, but story-wise, I did not like. No likey. To me, it kind of felt like they were trying to play up the love triangle and make that more of a thing. In the book, Katniss is still really unsure about how she feels. But in the movie, it seemed like she knew that she wanted to be with Gale, but couldn't for Peeta reasons. I don't know, I've always been a Team Peeta kind of girl, so I just was not feeling the extra romance between Gale and Katniss. And when Gale and Katniss were talking about making an escape, I wish they would have fought more. Because in the book, Gale is acting kind of petty and jealous, and he reacts in an immature way when he finds out that Katniss wants to bring Peeta along. Speaking of the escape plan, kind of, they took out the part about the runaways from District 8 going to District 13. And I'm totally okay with that exclusion. Like, I get why it wasn't included, it wasn't really necessary for the plot, but I wish we heard a little bit more about District 13. Like, build up that mystery of District 13 and what is there and what happened to them, because in the movie we don't really know anything about District 13, and that is something that is going to be important later on. But back to District 12, we have that raid going on with the new peacekeepers, and that was freaking terrifying. I know the hub isn't even supposed to exist, and District 12 has been pretty easygoing with the rules previously, but holy crap! And what the hell is Gale doing just tackling a peacekeeper while this is happening? Like, do you have no sense of self-preservation at all? That sociopathic peacekeeper with the crazy eyes is not messing around. Don't tackle him! I did really love Prim in the scenes following that, how she's like really taking charge and helping out. In the first book and movie, she's just Katniss's little sister who needs to be protected. But here she's helping, and she's like taking control of the situation and really just becoming her own character. Then we get to the quarter quell part, and man, this is just like how to start a rebellion 101. President Snow, do you realize what you're doing? Let's bring all these beloved victors together and unite them against the Capitol. At what point did President Snow realize that this was going to blow up in his face? Because it seemed like he didn't get that until the end, when he should have picked up on it a bit earlier on. Like the moment when all of the tributes are uniting and holding hands and standing against the Capitol, speaking out against the games. Like, that should be your first clue that things aren't going according to plan. Like Joanna said, once you win the games, you get to have a peaceful life. Like, that's the deal. Snow is just making things worse. Speaking of Joanna, I just freaking loved her. I loved her introduction when she's stripping down on the elevator and making everyone super awkward. I loved her interview where she's like swearing at the Capitol. I wish they wouldn't have bleeped it, because in a PG-13 movie, you get one F-bomb. I understand why they didn't, because, you know, children are present, so don't say any bad words. Let's just quickly cut to another scene where someone is brutally killed. I loved all of the other tributes. Like, again, perfect casting all around. Finnick was great. He wasn't quite as flirty and sensuous as I'd imagined him. Like, he came off a little more cocky and suspicious, kind of like, Can we trust him? What's going on with him? But I still loved him, and I loved Katniss asking to borrow his outfit. That was hilarious. So many little snarky bits of humor that just made the movie so much better. Then we had Beetee and Wyrus and Mags, and I loved all of them too. One thing that I really wish they would have included was a moment with the Morphlings playing with paint and whatnot. Later on, when the girl sacrifices herself to save Peeta, and then he's like holding her and talking to her about the colors of the sunset. That was really touching and emotional, and I feel like it would have been even more so if we'd had a moment with them earlier, like playing with the paints and the colors in the training room. It could have been a really short scene, and I just wish they would have included that so bad. A couple of other things that I really wanted to see but that we missed include Katniss and Peeta training like they were careers once they find out what the Quarter Quell is all about. We never see anything about Haymitch's games, and I would have liked that. We also never see Katniss and Peeta's scores. Like, we get Peeta doing his painting of Rue, and we get Katniss hanging Seneca Crane, which was awesome by the way, but we never get their assessment scores, which would have been really simple to include and would have amped up that drama a little bit, I think. I did really love the final interviews though, and we got to see Katniss's Mockingjay dress. That was wonderful. The pregnancy thing though, that was like a one-liner that never really got revisited in the arena. In the book it did, like in the book it was mentioned, but not so much in the movie. And Cinna, as soon as Katniss's dress catches on fire and Snow is like getting his murder face on, you just know that Cinna is done for. This was just such an emotional movie. From the very beginning, with Katniss dealing with PTSD and like trying to suppress this rebellion that she really has no control over, and then they're called for the Reaping and even Effie is like freaking miserable pulling those names. And then the goodbye scenes with Effie and Haymitch and the feelings. And then we say goodbye to Cinna, and seconds before Katniss goes into the arena, he's like dragged away and beaten bloody, and then once we get in the arena, things don't get any better. Like, there's death after death and just so many feelings. And the main reason we are feeling all of these feels is because the performances are just so very good. I know some people are gonna write this off as like another girly teen movie, but oh my god, if Jennifer Lawrence does not get recognition for her amazing performance, I am going to be very upset. Anyways, we finally get into the arena, which is amazing. All of the settings in this movie are amazing. So much of this movie just lined up perfectly with what I imagined in my head when I was reading, and it was just like a magical experience. And all of the action was just so intense and perfectly done, and my heart was like pounding the entire time. Like, even though I've read the book and I know how it's gonna go down, I was still surprised and like completely captivated the entire time, which is saying something. The part at the cornucopia where Katniss is like running to get her bow, and then her and Peeta are teaming up with Finnick and Mags and heading into the jungle, and then Peeta walks into the force field and Finnick is saving him and Katniss is crying, and I'm trying not to cry in this crowded theater, and like Katniss said earlier about how everyone seems to know her secrets before she does. Like, Katniss, you love Peeta. Just realize it in your brain already, because Finnick is starting to realize that he's catching on, so you need to catch up. You love Peeta, okay? Just realize it. Ooh, and then there was the part with the fog. Now, why didn't Katniss just immediately run? When is ominous lurking fog ever a good thing? Like, that's not how you survive the Hunger Games. You don't sit around and touch the fog. You get the hell out of there. Then they're running and they're trying to escape, and I am just cringing the entire time because their skin is like all boiling and bubbling, and why is Peeta holding his sword like around Finnick's neck? Like, that's just unnecessarily dangerous. But after Mags says goodbye and walks into the fog, and there's that moment where all three of them like collapse and this fog is rolling toward them, and there's this look on Katniss's face like, this is it, here it comes. But no, it's not it, because the fog hits the wall and doesn't kill them. They're okay for like a couple of minutes until those scary ass monkeys show up. By the way, does Katniss have like infinity arrows or something? Because she never seems to collect any after shooting, but still has plenty. Even when she gets knocked off the spinny cornucopia island, like, she doesn't lose her bow or any arrows. Right, okay. But yeah, they make it to the beach and they team up with Joanna and Beetee and Wiress, and things are okay again for a little while. Another scene that I really wanted to see in the movie was when Katniss and Finnick put the medicine on their faces and then scare Peeta. Like, I understand why it was excluded. It wasn't necessary to the plot at all, but still, like, I wanted that moment. I wanted it as a GIF that I could reblog. I'm a little bit bummed out that we didn't get that moment. Anyways, they figure out the clock, and right when they're getting an edge, the careers show up, and the party is over. Wasn't a really fun party to start with, and now it's just extra shitty. Then we get the spinny island thing, even though it wasn't really clear what that spinny island thing did. I mean, Plutarch was like, let's see how they tell time now, but it didn't really affect their ability to navigate the clock. In the book, there was an identical lightning tree in each segment, and they did have to take some time to like reorient themselves. But in the movie, it didn't really do anything, and like, Katniss flew off the island and landed in the water, but she was totally okay, like, she didn't even lose any arrows. It was just like a fun spinny ride. Like, put that in your Hunger Games theme park. Did you guys know that they want to make a Hunger Games theme park? Like, could we be any more capital? America! But anyways, Beetee has a plan, because that's what happens when you put a genius into the arena, President Snow. Like, your day gets all effed up. Now, when they're at the lightning tree and they're trying to separate Katniss and Peeta, I don't really get why Katniss didn't fight against that more. There is no argument for separating them other than, this is Beetee's plan that we agreed to, so we better do it exactly how he says. Why doesn't Katniss take a stand and be like, Peeta and I are staying together no matter what. Like, work your plan around that. I mean, we know what happens. We know that ultimately they're on the same side, but that situation is just so obviously screaming like, it's a trap! Like, really, Katniss? You're not gonna fight this harder? You're just gonna leave Peeta with these people? He can't really take care of himself, like, he needs you. But then we get our awesome finale. There's all the chaos of what's going on, and Joanna attacks Katniss to remove her tracker and lead the careers away from her. Katniss runs back up to the tree and sees what Beetee was doing, and then Finnick shows up and she almost shoots him, and President Snow, that sick bastard, is like urging her on, like wanting her to kill Finnick. But then Finnick tells her to remember who the real enemy is, and she puts it all together. She wraps the wire around the arrow and shoots it at the dome, and explosions and awesomeness. Then she's taken into the hovercraft like the same way they remove bodies from the arena. Like, there was some imagery. And then the ending is just straight out of the book. Katniss learns the real plan, and then she finds out that Peeta is in the capital, and then she loses her shit. Then later she wakes up and Gale is there, and he tells her that there is no District 12, and her face just, oh my god, I want Mockingjay, like, now! But yeah, final thoughts, it was amazing and spectacular, and I can't wait to watch it again. It's really rare that I look forward to rewatching something, but in this case, I really am. I'm very excited to see this movie again, and I will probably be doing so this weekend. and maybe even the weekend after that. It was just that good. But anyways, that is it for this video today, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you at the Catching Fire live show on Friday. I hope you have a great night, and I will have another vlog up soon, so I will see you then. Goodbye!